In this video we're going to tie a little carp fly called the Common Craw. This is a fly I developed here on the South Platte River for common carp. It also works great for trout as well. We're going to start off with a Gamakastu SL45 bonefish hook in a size 4 and some 6/0 olive thread. First material we're going to tie in is going to be the lead eyes. I'm going to take a pair of medium painted lead eyes in red. And I'm just going to tie those right on top of the shank of the hook. I'm going to leave about a hook eye's length away from the eye of the hook, giving myself a little space to tie off the fly when we're finished. And we're just going to do some quick X wraps. And I go underneath and pull tight to really cinch them down nice and tight. Then we're going to take our thread and we're just going to wrap it down halfway down the shank of the hook, where we're ready to tie in our tail material, which is just going to be some olive colored marabou. I like to use a light olive color. And we're going to take a nice chunk here, a single feather, but I'm looking for one that has nice, fine, full tips. So once I find one I like, I'm going to measure it out on the shank of the hook. I want it to be about the length of the entire shank of the hook. And then we're going to tie it down nice and tight right on top of the shank of the hook. And now we're ready for the next color, which is just some black. Same marabou. Now I like the black to be on the top of this fly and the olive to be on the bottom. So I just match it up to the exact length of my olive marabou and then tie it also right along the top of the fly. Then I'll just wrap through it a few times, just kind of cleaning everybody up. Doesn't have to be pretty. This is all going to get covered up later on the fly. There we are, and there's our tail. Now we're going to take 12 to 20 Peacock Herl fibers here. I'm going to take them all out here in one clump. Don't worry too much if the tips are even. I'm actually just going to trim the tips. So there is my generous clump, and I'm just going to take my scissors to the tips here and give myself a nice blunt cut there for me to tie in with. I'm going to tie those in. You want to make sure you have more than 12 fibers. You can use up to, I'd say, 20, 25 fibers. And I tie those in just right centered along the top of the hook. And now we're ready for our body material, which is just going to be a piece of crawfish orange pine squirrel. And we're going to tie this in right there at the back, and I want to make sure that all the fibers lay facing backwards on the fly, facing rearwards. So as I wrap this pine squirrel, you can see the fibers lay back down on the fly. You can kind of stroke them back with each wrap, making sure they all lay back facing rearward on the fly. And then once I get to the back of the eye, right behind those lead eyes, I can take some nice tight wraps and trim out my pine squirrel. Now at the beginning of this fly, if you wanted it tied a little heavier, you could have put some lead wraps on the base of the fly, but for time's sake I skipped that part. Usually for like a medium weight fly and medium depths, these lead eyes are usually enough. So now what I did was I just parted kind of the top of the fly here, right down the middle, parted that pine squirrel. Then I'm going to take half of my clump of Peacock Herl, about 6 fibers, I'm going to pull it and split that pine squirrel right in half, take a couple nice tight wraps. What I end up with there is just kind of a little top, splitting that pine squirrel. Then I'm going to jump my thread in front of those eyes. I'm going to take a single wrap with the Peacock Herl around the base of those eyes. Then I'm going to take some X wraps around those lead eyes, and I'll just kind of wrap through it a couple times. And what this is going to do is it's going to cover up all the wraps that I made to secure those lead eyes. And I can trim out the Peacock Herl, and if you have a little straggler, you can always just trim him out of there. Then we're going to take the rest of that Peacock Herl clump and just lay it over the top of the fly, and this will just kind of finish the fly off. And cover up some of that extra Peacock Herl, and it also helps split that pine squirrel. Then we can get in here with our whip finisher and just do a couple whip finishes just to secure everything and cover up any of the frazzled little peacock ends. And that is essentially a little finished Common Craw. Nice little carp morsel. But don't underestimate it for trout either. Works really good for trout. Nice little crayfish kind of pattern. I like to take a little bit of Zap-A-Gap and just touch it to those thread wraps. Sometimes what will happen is after it gets chewed up a little bit, some of those Peacock Herl fibers will pop off. So if you want it extra durable, you can just run a little quick swipe of Zap-A-Gap along the top, and that'll really help keep the fly together. And that is all there is to the little Common Craw. Lots of movement to this fly. Good little short profile as well, which is what I like for carp. I don't like a fly that's too long. I just like a nice little short profile, something that they can just jump all over and just suck right off the bottom.